High School, and he's led the Wildcats to an undefeated regular season. They're now 11-0, in fact, after a victory over Pineville in the 5A regional playoff round this past Friday night. And he's accomplished as much as anyone. He's won back-to-back state championships in 5A in 2007 and 2008 previously. And Destrehan doesn't get any favors from the schedule maker. They now travel to district rival East St. John in a rematch game this Friday night at Joe Keller Stadium. Please give a warm quarterback club welcome to Coach Steve Robichaux of the Destrehan Wildcats.
Thanks, Ken. I really appreciate it. Guys, I just want to thank Ken and the quarterback club for having me here. Let me talk a little bit about Destrehan football. Just a special day here for one reason, because we're sitting here with a room full of officials, and none of y'all have a flag, so I can rant and rave and do whatever I want up here, and y'all can't do a thing about it. So you guys, maybe I should have checked your pocket before y'all came in. But it's good to be here. It's good to see old friends. The reason I'm here, obviously, is because we've been very fortunate to have success over at Destrehan High School. And the reason for that, I think, is for three main reasons. And I think the number one reason, well, one of the reasons is our program. We've had a program that was set by Chipper Simon, Tim Rebo, Scott Martin, and I was just lucky enough to be able to work for those guys and be able to carry. The only thing I ever wanted to do at Destrehan was carry on what those guys have set in place, and it's been successful. And they got a little story. I'm not a very good storyteller, but there's a little story that I read about in a book by a guy named Wildcats, who had a little success in the business. But it kind of goes like this, so bear with me. There's an older gentleman. His wife had passed away, and it was kind of lonely. So he didn't know what to do. So he decided to go get a pet. So he went to the pet store, and the guy said, "Look, I have a number of things that you might be interested in. We have cats, dogs, birds, fish, whatever you think might help." He kind of looked at it. He said, "No, I don't want a dog running around. I don't want a cat with the fur all over. And, I don't want to have to clean the fish bowl." He said, "Well, let me try a bird." Well, the guy said, "Well, great. I got two types of birds. I have one here for $250 and one for $10. He said, "Well, what is the difference?" "Well, the one for $250 talks, and the one for $10 just kind of sits there in church and does what he normally does in the cage." So the guy says, "Great." He says, "Give me the $250 bird." So he takes the bird home, goes home, sets the cage up, puts the bird in the cage, and nothing. So a week later, he goes back to the pet store, and the guy says, "You sold me this bird for $250, and he hadn't said a word." He said, "Well, did you buy a ladder?" And the guy looked at him crazy. He said, "Why a ladder?" He said, "Well, of course, the bird likes to run up the ladder, get up on top, and then start talking." So the guy says, "Great." He said, "Give me a $10 ladder." So he took the ladder back, and a week goes by again, and he comes back and says, "You know what? No talking." So he goes back to the owner. He said, "Still nothing." So he said, "Did you buy the swing?" He said, "No." He said, "Yeah." He said, "The bird likes to run up the ladder, get on the swing, and then they'll start talking." So the guy said, "Okay." So he charges him $10, gets the swing, puts it back in. A week later, still nothing. He goes back to the pet store owner. The guy said, "Well, did you buy the bell?" I said, "The bell?" He said, "Yeah, he likes to run up the ladder, swing, ring the bell, and then he starts talking." So at $10, he buys the bell, brings it all back together. So he comes back about a week later, and the older gentleman's got a box, and he's bringing it to the pet store owner. The guy said, "What is that?" He said, "My bird didn't make it." He said, "Well, did you ever buy food for it?" It's not a funny story, but let me tell you how it kind of relates to our program. All right? I mean, the guy's sitting there lonely, now he's got a dead bird. I mean, there's nothing funny about that. But here's what we think about at Destrehan High School. This is what we try to do. Now, we have our problem like everybody else, but we try to take care of the little things. And the moral of that story, are you taking care of the little things? Are you thinking about everything possible? Did you think about feed for the bird? And no, you didn't. So that's what we try to instill into our players. Take care of the little things, and winning will take care of itself. And that's what we try to do. Our guys are, we have to shave before every game. We can't wear earrings in the field house. We can't wear that. All our kids are going to look the same when we run out pregame. And it's just something that's been put down and instilled in Destrehan football. And I think it's the program, it's the tradition, it's everything that's involved that allows us to be successful. And know what, our philosophy is at Destrehan, when you got, as a public school, when you have those classes that come through like last year and this year, hopefully you have a chance to win it, 2007, 2008. If you're doing the little things, hopefully that'll help you win the state championship, and that's what we try to do every year. Make sure we take a little thing so when the great players come through like they've been here the last couple of years, that we can take advantage of it. And that's one of the main reasons why I think we're having success at Destrehan. The second reason is you got to have a great staff. And I tell you what, at Destrehan High School, I think we have one of the best staff around. Greg Boyne, you know, he did an incredible job this year. We're playing with, and we'll talk more about this as my third phase, but we're playing with two sophomore quarterbacks. You know, we don't have that big senior quarterback right now in Legion, but he's done a great job of changing the identity of our offense. You know, we're going for last year where we threw for 3,000 yards and rushed for 1,000. This year so far we rushed for 3,000 and threw the ball for 1,000. So he's done an unbelievable job of taking what we have, the players we have, which we have good players, and getting them in the right position and allowing them to be successful. So I think he's done a phenomenal job hitting his staff on offense. Defensively, happy to get a guy, Lance Leday, who's done a great job. We've got what we call an old 50 defense that he kind of tweaked a little bit, so it's more like a 4-2-5, or we're getting more DBs on the field than big guys up front, and he's done obviously done a great job because we do play defense at Destrehan, and obviously that showed this year that those guys have done a tremendous job. So we're very fortunate. So you know, the program, number one. Number two, obviously you got to have good coaches, good people around you, and I think the most important in any phase is the players. You know, this year we're very, very fortunate to have good players. If you start, it all starts up front with our offensive line. We moved the defensive player over there, so now we're playing with 5 seniors on the offensive line, and I think that's critical. Those guys have done a good job. We have 3 returning starters. We had a junior that's a first-year starter at center, and we moved the defensive guy that now from defensive tackle over to offensive guard, and it kind of gave us a different mentality over there. So those guys have done a great job for us. If you look in the backfield, starting out with Will Matthews, who Will had, you know, he had 2,000 yards last year and 22 touchdowns. This year already he's got 1,500 yards and 20 touchdowns. I mean, he's just incredible, running inside zone, and I think he's done a good job. And a little bit of a wrinkle we got now, Kurt Merritt is now going into the backfield. A lot of people have a lot of questions about Kurt Merritt. Kurt's a guy that came over last year, had a great season for us at receiver. We kind of bringing him kind of in the backfield, kind of giving that backfield look and getting the ball out to him out in space because he's got the unbelievable big hands. He's a great receiver for us, and he can take the top off of the defenses. But now we're starting to see he's a pretty special running back. So he's got 525 yards rushing and 382 receiving yards. So and that's not counting his return yards. So he's a phenomenal athlete. He's done a great job for us. So that's Will Kurt, another receiver. We got Alfred Smith, who's committed to Arizona State. Just a guy that we play in the slot that has over 20 catches this year. Done a phenomenal job for us. And we have a youngster, a junior, number 9, John Williams, who's been tremendous for us. So Tremaine Armstrong, also another receiver. So offense is pretty steady. You know, there's some good players there. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a good football coach. We got good players. That's the bottom line. Those guys do a good job. So defensively, we got probably the biggest defensive line we ever had. We got a guy that you guys are going to hear about, but not next year, a guy, Glenn Logan, 6'4", 310, who's probably one of the best defensive linemen in the country next year. Next to him is Tiny, 6'3", 310, guy that we played on defense in the sophomore, moved over last year because we needed help in the offensive line. Got Gerald Wilbon, he's our nose guard. He's another guy. He started the season at 6'3", 340, and he's down to about 315 right now. He's a phenomenal athlete. And the little one next to him is only 6'2", 275. So we're pretty stout up front. We got some good players that play outside linebacker, and Alan Pittman and Peyton Staub, who Alan Pittman was named the defensive MVP in our district. 2 linebackers are both juniors who've been steady back there, so they've done a great job. And I know it sounds right, but our secondary is pretty good too. We got Brandon Scott, who's going to sign with either Arizona State, UCLA, Texas A&M, that type of. He's 6'1", about 190, and he'll come and hit you. He's a good player. He's going to be a big-time athlete. Strong safety is Raquan Morgan. He's number 5. He does a good job. He just committed to McNeese this year. He's undersized. 5'8", probably about 175, but just a guy who's a quarterback on the field. Two cornerbacks, one has 6 interceptions already. Austin Dixon has done a great job for us. And the other one is a junior, Kendall Anderson, who's done phenomenal for us all throughout the year. He's going to be a big-time player. So we're very fortunate. Our kicker has just been named the Wendy's Heisman for the state of Louisiana. So that's big for our school, so we're really excited about that. There's just a lot of good things going on. As far as football goes, as far as where we're at right now, obviously we're very fortunate to finish the tough schedule at 10-0. Played Pineville last week, and we were very fortunate enough to get up ahead of those guys early and got some younger guys in. But you never know when you play a team from up north, don't know a whole lot about them coming out of that tough 2-5-8 district. But we're very fortunate to get that done, and kind of everything kind of clicked for us. Quarterback was 10 for 11 for 147 yards. And if we can get him just to kind of control the game and kind of get the ball in the game in our playmakers' hands, I think we got a chance to be successful, and he was able to do that on Friday night. Any questions? I know I kind of ramble on there a little bit, but if I want to take any questions and kind of see what you got. Yes, sir.
Hey, Coach, I know this is your second go-around as the head coach, and so is there anything different you're doing this time to be successful than you did last?
I'm a lot calmer.
Seems like it does seem like
you just realize that, I'm just very fortunate now. We're very fortunate when we got our first stint, when we won the 2 state championships, and I got out because my daughter was cheering, and I decided to go watch her for 2 years. So I was very fortunate for St. Charles Parish to I ended up getting a safety position over at the school board office. Didn't work out so well for the guy that took my place. My daughter graduated, and my wife told me one time, maybe you want to go back to coaching. And, it only took that one time, and so here we are. And like I said before, that's all I ever want to do is keep that program going for Chip Assignment, who worked so hard, and Tim Rebo and those guys. And we've been blessed to have good players, and the program I think is in a pretty good place right now. So, yes, sir.
Coach, how's your kicking game? Because I know y'all always have good punters and kickers.
That's another funny story. We came out, we were coming out of last year, we had nothing, both graduated. We went to the baseball team, found a soccer guy, and he came out, kicked for us, did a great job. I think he's 90% on field goals and just about 100% on, I missed an extra one Friday night. But he's done a great job. He's about getting into the 5, sometimes into the end zone on kickoffs. But the great deal was the punter. Our punter, last year we had a real good punter, and pre-game, we'd go out, and when the kids start coming about 4:30, where the band would warm up on our field before the game. So we'd go out there, and a couple of coaches come in and said, "Coach, you see this kid in the band kick the ball?" Didn't think anything of it, in the season and so forth. And so finally I said, I'm going to go out there and watch it. So sure enough, our guy's a first-year kicker. He's 6'2", about 200 pounds. Probably the most incredible leg I've seen since Mike Cyphers. But he's just not polished. He just hadn't kicked enough. I think this kid's going to end up in college. I think he's going to end up playing somewhere, and I think he's probably got a chance to be in the NFL. He's got that big of a leg, but he's not polished yet. And he's going all summer. He showed up in August for us to say, now we're going to put the punt team in because we're stealing him from the band, so he had a lot of obligations with the band. So that's what it was, For me to get a kicker, I'll work with anybody, band, soccer, anybody. So those guys have done a great job. So hopefully we'll continue. Yes, sir.
Coach, maybe this will also dovetail with the Tulane coach since he's the strength and conditioning coach. How's Jawad Mobley doing in Tulane? And does he seem to be doing well? And what do you predict?
Special athlete. Coach and I were just talking about him. He is a special athlete. He does a great job in the weight room. He's doing a good job for him. I think he's going to be a great player for Tulane down there. I really do.
Is he the redshirt?
They didn't redshirt him. No, they didn't redshirt him. Played early. I hadn't seen him play a whole lot lately, but he did play early. But I think he's going to be a special player. You reminded me about that. East St. John's, they finished the season 5-5, but I tell you what, per athlete, probably the best team we faced all year. Their athletes, Xavier Lewis, is special. He does a great job. He's throwing the ball to Jaron Jackson, who's a ULL commitment. They got a Tulane commitment at running back who does an unbelievable job for them. They got a DB committed to Arizona State. They do a fabulous job. The only problem I think, and I know Phil has talked about this before, is they playing a lot of guys two ways, and I think it ends up hurting them. But I tell you what, when you start the game, you in a war. And I just hope that this week we can kind of do the same thing we did last time we played. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead. We came back, made it 14-7 at half, and then we scored 21 unanswered the second half. But hopefully we can do that again. Hopefully we can start out a little bit better. But as far as athletes go, tremendous athletes. I think they're a good football team. Hopefully we can get by this week because it's going to be interesting. Anybody else? Thank y'all so much for having me. Really appreciate it.